Hey guys, this is Tape, and today you join me for episode 14 of KSP A New World, and we start where we left off, effectively, which was a couple of weeks ago, because, well, last week was the whole 1.0 release, and I spent a bit of time covering that. So yeah, I am sorry I missed that upload, but it's just, I'm very busy right now. It's gonna be a bit, well, it's a bit hectic. But anyway, if you don't remember from a couple of weeks ago, I left a couple of, three Kerbals on the moon, because, because my maneuver wasn't very good and I slowed down too slowly because the engine wasn't very powerful. And yeah, they're basically stuck in a pod on the surface of the moon. So this is effectively the same spacecraft, but with a probe attached and an SAS unit and things, so that it can go and autonomously land on the moon and save them. So yeah, let's just push this into orbit. This is the upgraded rocket from the one I first used, I think, a while ago, because it has a nicer upper stage engine, which loses me some delta V, but probably gains it back given that I don't lose so much to gravity losses while falling back to the planet. So ultimately it works quite well. But yeah, you can see the probe on top of this. Hopefully that'll still be aerodynamically stable, falling through the atmosphere. Well, screaming through the atmosphere. This is still 0.90 because I have so many mods it will take. Well, I don't have that many mods, so it's not that much of a problem, but it will take me a little while to upgrade, but I'm just going to keep playing 0.90 until I know it'll work in 1.0, but hopefully I will be able to, because I'm interested in the whole resource mining and things like that. Although every time I've done resource mining with Keythane, I get a bit bored. But anyway, now we're going to get our encounter with the moon, just fairly standard stuff, so this is all just sped up. But yeah, we're coming in kind of inclined, which actually is kind of good. Probably should have burned a little more there to put myself on the other side of the moon. It might have been a little more efficient. Talking of efficiency in things, I do make a few mistakes this episode. This can be called the episode of mistakes if you like. Annoyingly, it's episode 14, not 13. Usually 13 is actually oh no! It actually usually is episode 14, which is actually a pretty bad episode. As I remember in Solar Civilization, I had an episode 14, which I think was the exact same fucking thing, where I got stuck on the moon. So, oh my god! That's a conspiracy. Illuminati confirmed. Yeah, that's confirmed the Illuminati. But anyway, we're in a pretty good position now. Forgetting the Kerbal conspiracy. Oh my god, please take to Reddit and things to make the Kerbal conspiracy. Episode 14, Unlucky Moon Things. Oh no, this happened on episode 13 where I got stuck on the moon. Oh my god, Illuminati more confirmed. That is weird. It always seems to be either episode 13 or 14 where I get stuck on the moon. I'm gonna have to go back and check through those videos. I'm not sure if that's true, but that's crazy. Anyway. I've left myself on a little bit of an inclined orbit, but as you all know, changing your plane is much easier when you're higher up in an orbit. Just because you're changing your velocity and you're moving slower when you're higher up, so it makes sense. However, slowing down from this kind of orbit in a landing path is not so efficient because you're having to burn off a lot of vertical velocity, like a ridiculous amount. So this was a mistake. It probably would have been more fuel efficient to to put myself into a proper orbit and bring myself down with, do the inclination change, slow down, lose a little fuel there, but then I wouldn't have had to do this ridiculous slowdown maneuver, which was ridiculous. This was one of my errors. Sometimes I think something's going to be more efficient, like most people do. It's like, oh, this looks like good. And then you don't really think about the whole picture, so I didn't really think that much about the landing path until about now when I realized this isn't very efficient. So yeah, maybe this is a lesson in don't do this. Often I do things quite efficiently. I think I'm generally a pretty good player at KSP, but often I kind of screw things up. And I actually get weirdly annoyed at myself for a video game. And you shouldn't get annoyed at yourself for a video game, because it is just a video game. It's, an optional hobby. But I like to do these things, quite well, because I'm a space enthusiast. I like to show off my skills. But still, sometimes you make mistakes, and yeah. So I reckon I'm gonna call this freaking place the Bermuda Triangle, because it's I seem to have bad landings when I come here. It's because I put myself on a weird trajectory. So yeah, you may have seen just then I pumped a bit of fuel from my ascent stage into my landing stage. That wasn't because I needed it. That was because just in case I needed it, I want it to be already there. But you know what? Rule of thumb: if you're ever pumping your fuel from your ascent stage into your landing stage, the mission is not going well. And you can see I've already kind of screwed up. By this point, I did realize this wasn't going to go well. But I kept going anyway, because there's no point giving up on a mission that isn't completely failed. And this did cost me about 50,000 funds, along with the other 50,000 for the original mission. This has been a non-profitable, very expensive mission. Anyway, I'm pumping more fuel into my landing stage, because now I'm pretty much screwed. So yeah, this was one of my more mistake-ridden episodes. And we'll, you know, look at the consequences of that. But anyway, we are coming down quite well now. It's looking alright. A little too vertically for my liking. But still. Anyway, I will slow this down for the actual landing so that you can see the finesse at which I landed. Even the landing wasn't very finesseful, I guess. It was a bit bouncy. But anyway, I'm within, you know, 2 kilometers, which is reasonable. It's not a bad landing. Pretty bad trajectory. But yeah, so, you know, rule of thumb, if you're landing, don't go into a big inclined orbit, a big eccentric orbit. It's just not a good way to do it. So yeah, that's my lesson for today, to make this not a total failure. But yeah, it does seem a bit like Apollo 13, doesn't it? I mean, I failed in the 13th episode. It was... No, it can't have been the 13th mission, can it? Because... it may have been my 13th Moon/Minmus mission, although I think it might have actually been more like my 11th. I'm going to check. There's too many 13s in this. It's going to be just too freaky. Although a lot of people in the whole Apollo 13 thing were very all like, oh my god, it was all about it being 13, which of course it wasn't. Because, why would it be? I mean, 13 is something we've created, and we live in a universe that doesn't really involve us that much. If the Earth disappeared tomorrow, nothing would really change. The only real big thing that would change is the moon would be a bit by itself. It would, you know, I guess, it would just be a dwarf planet, I guess. Maybe probably just take our place, be a dwarf planet. So yeah, don't go too crazy about being suspicious about 13s and things. I mean, it's fun to be suspicious and things, but there's a limit. Anyway, let's fly over. Let's get this guy out. We're gonna go home, hopefully. Although I'm pretty sure there's not enough fuel to get back to Kerbal. I know there's not enough fuel to get back to Kerbal, because the thing with my Horizon spacecraft is they're designed so they have a lot of fuel for landing, so that I won't screw it up. Although I managed to screw it up. Yeah, so they have a lot of fuel for landing, but they have just enough fuel for getting home. They have a little more than they need, because it's always good to have more fuel than you need. But yeah, they have enough fuel, basically, but not loads for ascent and return to Kerbal, because I'm good at that usually. I can, you know, I get into a pretty good orbit. I fly home relatively efficiently. It's landing where I always seem to fall down. So yeah, this was probably a mistake. So hopefully we'll get into orbit around the moon, although it's kind of doubtful considering the very small amount of fuel I have left. I have basically 3 toroidal tanks and about half of one of those little 45 unit tanks. So it's not looking perfect for me right now, well, for our little Kerbals. But anyway, they're going to get... No need telling them, no need to worry our Kerbals if there's nothing we can do, okay? So let's put them in the spacecraft. And just get them out of here. Now, I probably shouldn't have brought those science bays, just because I should have saved weight. I should have just really made a rescue craft, not a scientific spacecraft. But the government were all like, oh, well, you gotta get the science. That's part of the mission, or we ain't paying for it. Not that they did pay for it. We paid for it out of our own money. And we have got a lot of money. We had about 400 grand. Now we're on about 350 because we spent money on this spacecraft. So we're good. We're good for money right now, which is lucky, because if we didn't have any money, we wouldn't be able to mount a rescue. However, this wasn't a very good rescue, especially because if you look at this spacecraft, you might realize that there's not... well, those solar panels aren't attached to the ascent stage. They're going to stay on the moon. So there isn't any electric charge generation on the bit that's going home. So that's not great, really, if I'm honest. So yeah, this spacecraft and this flight was all pretty much the worst rescue mission ever. And yeah, I pride myself on being terrible at rescue missions. I actually am usually terrible at rescue missions. Usually it all just goes to shit. So yeah, that is... yeah, not very good. I'm not very good at rescue missions, so I try and get it right first time, basically. But anyway, let's get our Kerbal into the pod, and try and get the other Kerbals across. Well, we'll get our Kerbals across easily. I'm turning off the torque in this. I don't want too much stuff draining my power as I ascend into orbit. But anyway, this is the next Kerbal across. I skipped through the flight this time, because it was a long flight. He's not very smart. He fell on his head. Yeah, rather annoyingly, the Kerbals actually have about 600 meters per second of delta V in their jetpacks, which isn't quite enough to actually get into orbit around the moon, which is a bit annoying. But anyway, we've got our Kerbals in. Obviously, it would be a bit ridiculous if they had all the fuel themselves. But yeah, it's a little bit like, oh, you didn't give me enough fuel. But anyway, it's time to go home. Let's take off. Let's hope that we have enough fuel for, well, just getting somewhere near space. Well, somewhere near space, somewhere near orbit. Just fast enough. Hopefully in orbit, but probably not. Fast enough to, jetpack into orbit. Let's hope we have time for all three. But anyway, let's speed through this. This is just a pretty standard thing. We just, burn as fast as we can, as laterally as we can, getting a bit of altitude so we have a little margin for error, but we are running out of fuel. And we run out of fuel about now. I'm not giving up. I'm getting Jebediah Kerman out of this goddamn spacecraft, and he's going home. I'm going to get as many Kerbals out of here as I can. We're going to jetpack into orbit. I'm not going to go into orbit right now. I'm going to just put them going faster, and then I'm going to get as many Kerbals out as possible, and just try and get them all into orbit if I can. 3 seems like a lot. So I might have to pick some favorites here. But yeah, so basically, let's just try and push Jeb into orbit. Well, as fast as possible so that we've got a little time. And then let's grab another Kerbal out of there. Let's get... you can see I was picking there. You can see me flicking between, like, do I want Bob or Bill? I prefer Bill. And there's not a lot of time to go back for Bob. Now, I feel terrible, but we've got to prioritize. And what we need right now is as many Kerbals alive as possible. Now, there's no point going back for them if they're all going to die while I'm trying to get him into orbit. So, he gave his life for a good cause. But anyway, basically, from now, I switched between the Kerbals and, burned forward and upward and took turns burning until I was in an orbit, which took a lot of our fuel because we don't have that much fuel. But anyway, so I took and I'm just going to skip through that because it did take me a while. And you can see right here just finishing off my burn with one of them at least. I'm not sure exactly which one. And then switching back to Jeb. Yeah, that was Bill, who's just got into orbit. He's safe for now. So we're going to switch back to Jeb. We're going to get him into orbit, and then we're going to launch a spacecraft, another one, which is probably going to cost about another 50, maybe 40 grand. And then we're going to flip out and screw everything up as the camera hates me apparently, and we're just going to get ourselves into orbit, and then everything will be fine ish, maybe, hopefully. And then yeah, so yeah, we're going to mourn the loss of Bob. He was a great guy. He had an orange suit, which makes him important. And then we're going to save these goddamn Kerbals. I swear to God, I'm not losing any more Kerbals. So we've put Milbury in a rocket by himself, because Milbury is my greatest Kerbal. Well, my greatest Kerbal on the ground right now. He's our most experienced pilot who isn't Jebediah. And we've launched him on a brand new cheap rocket, the cheapest we could, because we don't want to waste too much money. Maybe should have spent a little more money to give us a little bit more fuel margin, but we don't have a lot of time. So we're just going to try and go to the moon as quickly as possible. This launch was terrible, because you can see I'm hardly able to tip over. Ferrum Aerospace isn't very kind to me. But anyway, it doesn't matter. As long as we get to orbit, it doesn't matter. So Milbury is all prepared for, his orbital maneuvers. He's going to head out there, just grab Jeb and Bill, and just bring them back to Kerbin, and everything's going to be fine, hopefully. But anyway, so let's just get ourselves into orbit. Usual thing, pretty standard trajectory. Although that was a bit of a rubbish trajectory, but the difference isn't actually that much in how much fuel it costs. You shouldn't get too caught up worrying about your trajectory. I mean, now we've got a better atmospheric model in 1.0. You have to, get a pretty good launch, or you'll just, you can't just turn over at 10 kilometers anymore. You have to learn. But if you are having trouble turning over and you're going a little too high, it doesn't really matter that much. You're going to waste a little fuel, but it's not massively important. I mean, you want to try and be going as flat as possible without going too flat, basically. But yeah, we've got to. It's not insanely important. But anyway, let's get ourselves out to the moon and go and rescue these Kerbals. Yeah, I am looking forward to updating this to 1.0, mainly because there's so much less RAM usage. I can just I can have some nicer textures. Well, not textures. It's just there's a few mods I'd like, such as the better atmospheres, which makes the planets look freaking beautiful. I'm not sure the guy who made better atmospheres, but it's an amazing mod. It makes it look really awesome. But anyway, moving on. We need to plan ourselves a maneuver. And I just cut through that because it took me a while to plan it, and you don't want to sit through that. It was just basically trying to figure out how to get as close to where I need to be heading as possible. Standard things. And now I'm going to head and try and get the Kerbals. However, You can see their water and their food and their oxygen is running out. And now it's depleted. We have 3 hours. And now let's look how far our periaps is away. Yeah, quite far away. They might run out of resources. Because TAC life support is what I'm using, and that's the whole life support mod. And they might run out. So, yeah. Let's try and be as fast as possible. And try and get ourselves some encounters with, Jeb and Bill. Whoever we can get first. Obviously, I'd really like to get Jeb back, because it's Jeb. But Bill is closest. So Bill is the priority. Jeb is a badass. He would gladly, give his life, sort of thing. But we're going to get them both back to Kerbal. That's my goal. That's my freaking goal right now, is I'm going to get them both back. Because I am not losing my goddamn Kerbals. But yeah, this is, well, not that much like Apollo 13. Apollo 13 managed to get back by themselves. It didn't require 2 other launches, near bankrupting the space program. Although we still have about 300 grand. So we're fine. We're just a little not that well moneyed right now. But anyway, we've got ourselves an encounter. We're heading up Bill. We're going to slow ourselves down. Put ourselves on a good trajectory. Look, we're right there. 0.3 kilometers away. We can see him right there. Bill coming. We're going to go and get him back. We'll fetch him, put him on our spacecraft. But he died of oxygen deprivation. I switched to Jeb, but he's died too. So yeah. We lost our Kerbals. We lost the big 3. We lost the orange suits. Now, I'm not the one to care too much about what goes on in video games, but that is just not great. Yeah. Not feeling too happy about that. Milbury tried his hardest, and he will take on the role of our senior pilot, since he is the best around. But anyway, so we need to get Milbury back now. That's just, he'll return to Kerbin all sad, and we'll have a big, I don't know, we'll do something to, commemorate our Kerbals. And then, I don't know, we'll, it's a black day for the Kerbal space program. This is too much Delta V, so yeah, this isn't working. We're in a really inclined orbit as well, so it's not super easy to get back to Kerbin. So yeah, this has been one of my faily episodes. Every now and again, when I play Kerbal Space Program, I just have an episode which just goes to shit. And this was that episode where my first lander didn't really work, and my second spacecraft wasn't fast enough, and yeah. So, we'll get over it. We have we got more Kerbals. We don't need the big 3. We're gonna miss them. They're gonna be commemorated. I've already lost 3 freaking Kerbals. That seems like a lot. But anyway, let's just what I'm doing here is I'm just escaping the moon, so that I can just do my retrograde burn outside of the moon. However, that was foolish that I burned more prograde, because it's kicked me into a higher orbit, and I am indeed running low on fuel. Now, there is no way in hell that I'm going to let myself lose another Kerbal in this episode, because 3 is too many. Not only 3, the big 3. The most important Kerbals in the entire space program. I'm sorry, all the other Kerbals, but it's true. And this isn't 1.0, so we don't have Valentina. But if I do update this to 1.0, hopefully I'll get Valentina, because at least I'll have 1 orange suit. And you know what? If there's a replacement for Jeb, it's Valentina. Yeah, she's a woman, but still no, of course. Women astronauts are just as equal as males. But yeah, it would be very cool if she stepped in and replaced. That's awesome. I've just thought how awesome that'll be. And if I do get it to update and I get Val as well, she'll just be walking and be like, yeah, I'm taking over. Because she also has the badass trait. Although Milbury will be a bit like, nah, I've got all the experience. But anyway, we've run out of liquid fuel and oxidizer. And we're still quite far away from Kerbin. I have a bit more RCS, so it's not all screwed. But it doesn't look like we're actually going to hit the atmosphere right now. Which isn't great, I'm going to say. However, I'm not losing another Kerbal. That's not happening. So Milbury might have to get out and push. And I'm willing to let him get out and push, because, you know what? I'm not losing another Kerbal. That's not happening today. I'll have no experienced pilots if I do that. Except I think I have one more who's kind of experienced. But he's nothing compared to Milbury. And Milbury was about as experienced as Jeb. He just wasn't a badass. But anyway, we have run out of modern propellant. But Milbury's having none of that. He's going to get out and freaking push, because he is the ultimate badass now. Okay, well, he's not the ultimate badass. Val's now the ultimate badass. If we can get into 1.0, we can get another goddamn orange suit. But anyway, let's push this spacecraft. There's no SES, though. Oh no, there is no SES unit. Damn it, which does mean it will tip. So it did take me a while to do this, but I did do it, because I was not losing this. So it took me a long time to push this spacecraft home. Most of the time I did just push it prograde, even though it was tumbling, because it was just quicker. I did hack off a solar panel there and knock out Milbury, but I'm gonna cut ahead, because this took a really, really long time. But yeah, you know, at this point I was happy to do it, because I'm not losing another Kerbal. But anyway, let's descend to Kerbin, fly back, get Milbury home, get him a big old beer, and then just I don't know, be sad. Fly our flags at half-mast, maybe launch some kind of memorial next episode, and well, it is I like to plant a flag every time I lose a Kerbal, so we will be planting a flag for the Kerbals, who we lost, which, you know, will be commemorated forever as the ultimate badasses. And I'm kind of hoping that the update will screw a few things up and bring them back, and I can make up some kind of backstory about that. But for now, we're going to just hire a bunch of new Kerbals and commemorate the ones we lost, which is what we're doing here today. Milbury standing on the side of Ronnie and I think Matt Kerman, and we're going to plant a flag. Milbury is going to throw a flag down because he wants to commemorate the Kerbals he tried so valiantly to save. So we're going to need a site name. I'm planting this just outside of any of the KSP units, because I'm a little worried if I upgrade the buildings, it'll delete the flags, and I don't want that to happen. So yeah, Bill, Bob, and Jebediah Kerman. And then Memorial, because that's what this is. So yeah, we will remember them forever and ever as the bravest who gave their lives in the pursuit of science. Not only the pursuit of science, the pursuit of awesomeness. So, these... I can't read this right now, but I believe this says something along the lines of, in memory of the 3 Kerbals who gave their life in the pursuit of awesomeness, because they flew higher and faster and more inclined, and maybe they shouldn't have flown so fast because they hit the moon quite hard. But they tried their goddamnedest to achieve awesomeness, and they did, and we will remember them forever. But until then, which we will remember them in the next episode, I guess, but until the next episode, this has been KSP with Tape. I will see you next time.